The plaintiff, in invoking the original jurisdiction, was seeking reliefs that, upon true and proper interpretation of Article 94(2)(a) of the 1992 Constitution, the decision to allow Judge Kwesi to contest and his subsequent election is null and void. Lawyer for the plaintiff, Frank Davis, after the court hearing, expressed appreciation to the court, indicating that the orders are in line with upholding the sanctity of the Constitution. He spoke to journalists shortly after proceedings.
We have to protect the sanctity of the Constitution. We are gratified that the law lords, all the 7 of them, have agreed unanimously with the position we have held all along, and at all times material, James Gyakye Kwesi was not qualified under the dictates of the Constitution of the Republic to have contested as a member of Parliament for the Asin North constituency. It's been a long road. You can all attest to the number of times we have paraded the court premise. But today, finally, the judgment has been handed, and we have a clear indication as to what the provision on dual citizenship is in respect of a contest for member of Parliament.
I mean, what do you expect to happen practically going forward? The court interestingly gave an order that his name should be expunged from the records of Parliament.
Of course, but that is a necessary consequence of the reliefs that we sought in the Supreme Court. He wasn't qualified to have contested as a member of Parliament. Of course, the necessary inference is that whatever happened was null and void and of no legal effect whatsoever. So Parliament cannot still keep his name on their books. It's a necessary consequence, but of course, the order has to be drawn and served on the Speaker, and his name will have to be expunged.
Your client is a constituent. I mean, it means that he's looking forward to the EC, once that order is drawn up, the EC taking steps for effectively by-election to take place.
He's not looking forward. That is the constitutional injunction on the EC. So my client is not looking forward to anything. The EC will have to comply. Insofar as that seat now remains vacant, the EC has to conduct elections in that constituency. So it is not for my client to be looking forward to. It is for the EC to comply with the orders of the Supreme Court. And the constitutional injunction is that if a seat is vacant, you organize fresh elections.
You heard lawyer for the plaintiff, Frank Davis. Let's go over the phone lines and speak to our court correspondent, Hanson Ajaman. Hanson, thanks for joining us. Tell us what happened in court today.
So essentially, it was a judgment from the Supreme Court, as we've already reported, on the case involving Asin North. Then NDC parliamentary candidate for Asin North, James Gyakye Kwesi, who was allowed to contest the election and was later elected as Member of Parliament. The court clearly indicated that by virtue of the fact that he had not fully renounced his Canadian citizenship, by the fact that the document to suggest that he had renounced the Canadian citizenship came after he had filed his nomination to contest as Member of Parliament for Asin North. Then his decision, then he didn't qualify at all to contest as a Member of Parliament. And hence the subsequent decision of the Electoral Commission to allow him to contest was unconstitutional. And as a result, his election is null and void and is of no legal effect. So the court gave orders that Parliament should expunge his name from the records of Parliament. In essence, what this means is that when we talk about members of Parliament, there has never been any member of Parliament called James Gyakye Kwesi as far as matters stand now.
Okay, so that means that his seat is vacant. So what happens next? Would there be a by-election, and how soon would it be held?
Well, per the Constitution, vacancy will have to be declared by the Speaker of Parliament. So the Supreme Court has acted in line with its powers, with the fact that their original jurisdiction was invoked. They've interpreted the Constitution to mean that if you read Article 94, Clause 2E of the 1992 Constitution, if one had not renounced his citizenship at the time of filing the nomination, that person did not qualify to contest as a member of parliament, and hence his election is null and void, asking parliament to take off his name from their books. Now the rest is left with parliament, and the constitution mandates the speaker of parliament, when a seat becomes vacant, for the speaker of parliament to declare that that seat has been vacant, and then the clerk of parliament is given some number of days according to the constitution to then communicate to the electoral commission. The electoral commission also by the constitution is mandated within a specific period of time to hold a by-election. So having gotten this order from the Supreme Court, we can only wait for the Speaker of Parliament to declare the seat vacant, but that is a power reserved for the Speaker of Parliament. And so if the Speaker of Parliament declares the seat vacant, then just like how it happened in the Kumi case, the clerk will communicate to the clerk will communicate to the electoral commission, and then the electoral commission will in turn also now give out the timetable or the modalities for a by-election, if applicable.
All right, Hanson, considering the numerous applications on this particular case, can you put it into context for us?
So this case has moved all the way from the High Court in Cape Coast through to the Court of Appeal in Cape Coast and to the Supreme Court. Now, it started as an election petition. Now, the Constitution stipulates that any challenge on the election of a member of parliament should be done at the High Court, and then the decision from the High Court can be appealed at the Court of Appeal. So first, Michael Ankuma Nimfa, who is a plaintiff here and a resident of Asin North, went to the High Court in Cape Coast, indicating that James Jachikwesin's election was null and void because he did not meet the qualification as indicated in Article 94 of the Constitution. The High Court agreed with him, injuncted James Jachikwesin, but even before the High Court came out with his judgment on the eve of the swearing in of members of parliament, if you will all recall, an injunction notice was sent, to parliament, served on the clerk of parliament, that James Jachikwesin should not be sworn in. However, James Jachikwesin was sworn in. Now, based on that High Court decision, lawyers of James Jachikwesin went to the Court of Appeal. But of course, the action at the Court of Appeal failed because of some procedural matters. And while the case was at the Court of Appeal, that was when the applicant here, Michael Ankuma Nimfa, then invoked the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to interpret Article 94 Clause 2A of the Constitution. And so the Supreme Court has interpreted it in favor of the plaintiff. But even before coming to the conclusion of the matter, the Supreme Court had earlier injuncted James Jachikwesin from acting as a member of parliament. So for months now, James Jachikwesin had not been holding himself as a member of parliament. So with this set of cases essentially out of the way, pending any other action that may come from the camp of the defendant here, James Jachikwesin, what is left now of this case is a criminal matter that has been instituted by the state. Now, the state has instituted criminal charges against James Jachikwesin, including telling untruth to a public officer. And so that particular case is still pending at the High Court and will be following for our listeners here at Citi FM.
All right, Hanson, before we move on to other cases that were heard today in court, let's listen to the Director of Elections of the New Patriotic Party, Evans Nimaku, indicating that the NPP is ready for a by-election in Asin North if the Electoral Commission commences processes for same.
We've always held the position that Mr. Kwesin was not qualified as of the time he filed to contest. And he, on that note, was not supposed to be in Parliament. I mean, this decision comes to address the issue that we put out there, he was not qualified. And the Supreme Court has said so. Unanimous decision. So for us as a party, we will go back, consult our legal team, and look at the next line of action.
This may mean that 2 by-elections on your hand, Kumewu already next week. How prepared will the party be if the Electoral Commission should act?
As far back as July 2021, the High Court had told the Electoral Commission to conduct elections in Ase North. The party has always been ready that anytime soon the EC comes out, we are ready to go. But what we have at hand now is winning the Kumewu by-elections. We are working towards it. But for today's decision, the party will go back and sit down, look at the issues, and come out the way forward.
You heard the Director of Elections of the New Patriotic Party, Evans Nimakun, speaking to City News' court correspondent Hanson Ajiman, who's still on the line. Hanson, there were other cases in court today. What was the ruling on the Kwesi Nyantakyi v. Anas case?
Well, we know Kwesi Nyantakyi is facing criminal charges for the number 12 documentary by investigative journalist Anas Armia Anas, where in this investigative documentary, Kwesi Nyantakyi is seen allegedly receiving bribes and also engaged in influence peddling. So he's been charged with counts of fraud and corruption. And the case has traveled for quite some time. Anas Armia Anas is a key witness in this case for the state. And so Kwesi Nyantakyi, he has always maintained that if Anas Armia Anas is going to testify in court, then he has every right to see who the real Anas is. He moved this application some time back orally. The court granted the application. The Attorney General then went to the Supreme Court invoking its supervisory jurisdiction over the High Court to say that the High Court erred in a way by agreeing to the decision, agreeing to the application of Kwesi Nyantakyi. The Supreme Court agreed with the Attorney General and quashed the ruling of the High Court at the time. And then, so after that, Kwesi Nyantakyi has reapplied the application again. And mind you, when it comes to supervisory jurisdiction like the Shorara, usually the Supreme Court will not go into the merits of the matter, but will only consider the issues on whether or not the Supreme Court its powers have been rightly invoked as to whether or not there's been a breach of the principles of natural justice, or there's been a breach of protocol, or there's been unreasonableness in the ruling by the court lower it here, or the court below it here being the High Court. And so when Kwesi Nyantakyi brought the application again, the judge presiding over the case indicated that since the merit of the case was not considered by the Supreme Court, the court is still at liberty to consider if to allow for Anas Armia Anas to be cross-examined while unmarked. Now, the court granted this application in part meaning that Kwesi Nyantakyi will testify in open court where everybody can see him with his mask. So Anas Armia Anas will testify in open court where everybody can see him with his mask. Just like when it comes to all these speeches that Anas gives and he disguises himself, that is how he is going to appear before the court to testify and cross-examine. However, anytime that he is coming to testify, the defendants in this case will be allowed in chamber. In chamber essentially will mean in private, between the judge, Kwesi Nyantakyi, perhaps, and the state and perhaps their lawyers, for Kwesi Nyantakyi to see who the real Anas is before he is brought back in open court to testify in March. So essentially, the number of days that Anas Armia Anas will testify, for those number of days before Anas testifies in open court, Kwesi Nyantakyi and the other defendants in this matter will be given the opportunity to see who the real Anas is. And also, aside this particular case, later this afternoon, the state will be moving its application before the general jurisdiction of the High Court on whether or not the former CEO of the defunct Capital Bank, Atu ACN, should be handed a custodial sentence. That is, he should be given a jail term for failing to meet the terms of arrangement for which a deal was agreed with him and the state, so that he pays some 90 million Ghana cedis, which he paid 30 million in December, and was supposed to pay 20 million in the remainder of the 60 million in 3 tranches. 20 million first of which was due April 28, and since he was not able to meet that term of the agreement, according to law, he's supposed to pay the remainder of the 60 million. We are aware that he had paid 30 million, and last week he paid 4 million. He notified the state that he was also going to send another 1 million into the coffers of the state. We are unaware if since last week he has made any further payment, but the state is insisting that he has to make the full 60 million payment before he will be allowed to go scot-free. And so the state at 1 p.m. today will be moving its application as to whether or not Atu ACN should be handed a jail term.
Hanson, thank you very much for those updates. We will definitely stand by for Atu ACN's case and update our listeners subsequently. Charles has some more stories.
An economist with the University of Cape Coast, Professor John Gachi, has called on Ghanaians to hold the Akufo-Addo government accountable should it successfully get the monetary support from the IMF. Today, all eyes would be on Washington, D.C. for the much-anticipated IMF board approval for Ghana as government seeks the first tranche of $600 million to kickstart a $3 billion bailout package. The board is undertaking this exercise after the country met all the preconditions as well as obtaining financial assurances from members of the G20 Common Framework. In an interview with Citi News, Professor John Gachi also reiterated calls for government to be more prudent in its fiscal policy direction after the receipt of the first tranche, as it is critical to the restoration of macroeconomic stability.
Well, I believe we all have responsibility. The IMF has a responsibility to make sure they live to their mandate to ensure that government adheres to principles of prudence. Citizens have a mandate to ensure that they are very active on issues regarding transparency and accountability. CSOs are to be very active in demanding accountability from government. But we also need to caution, because when you listen to government spokespersons on radio and television, they seem to think that this money is coming and that will give them some fiscal space to borrow to do their things. But I believe that is not the essence. So we need, all of us have to come on board to press the button of demand for accountability, transparency, and disclosures. It is only then that the government can do the right thing. You don't have a government that is about to go into election and thinking that the government will willingly be doing what is right. I do not think so. So the call is for all of us to demand accountability, transparency, and prudence.
Professor Gachi also highlighted what government must do to activate the other tranches of the $3 billion package.
Yeah, the other tranche is predicated on performance. So performance metrics in the various areas will be put before the government, and government economic management should aspire to meet those performance targets. And when they are met, then the funds will be released. When they are not met, then there is a problem of release of the next tranches. I believe the government has to work very, very hard to meet those performance targets. Other than that, the first tranche is very crucial for government. It's crucial because it will set signal to the global environment that IMF is now on board, and that is the restoration on the path of prudence and perhaps on the path of the policies that are being sent out. The policies may receive some credibility. So that is why the first tranche is very, very crucial for government.
That was Professor John Gachi. He's an economist with the University of Cape Coast.
An associate professor with the Department of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Lord Mensah, has described as a step in the right direction plans by former President John Dramani Mahama to restore the licenses of banks that were unjustly revoked during the financial sector cleanup. The government in 2017 undertook the banking sector cleanup under the supervision of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The exercise saw a reduction in the number of banks from 34 to 23, whilst 347 microfinance institutions, 15 savings and loans, and 8 finance houses had their license revoked. Professor Lord Mensah has been speaking to Citi News on the issue.
So there's an appreciation of the fact that if you want to do a cleanup, you don't necessarily have to collapse banks. And this is what we talked about earlier. I mean, when the the cleanup exercise was going on, we said that the kind of cleanup exercise we are doing, which is distorting or which is breaking down the financial architecture we have, will end up creating a huge economic cost for us. And this is what happened. And I think the former president who wants to seek office again may want to take into consideration the social dimension of an existence of a bank.
Professor Lord Mensah is an associate professor with the Department of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School. You're still listening to the Citi Prime News live on 97.3 Citi FM. Still to come, Public Utilities Regulatory Commission increases electricity tariffs by 18.36%.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
The international football season has just reached fever pitch, and GoTV will be right there for it all. So get settled into your living room stadium because you are coming with us to the epic finales of the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, Europa League, FA Cup, and more. All you have to do is get and stay connected to GoTV, where all the big games keep coming.
Points of world-class difference.
GoTV, love it.
No one stops that.
Listen up, people. There's good news for Airtel Tigo customers who haven't started and those who are yet to complete their SIM re-registration. Yes, good news. Complete your SIM re-registration and get free 5GB data falla to browse, chat, Zoom, TikTok, Snap, and do more on Airtel Tigo to change your world. If your SIM has been blocked, don't worry. You can have your number back and also get a whopping 5GB data as soon as you register with your Ghana card. Simply visit the nearest Airtel Tigo shop or agent today. Complete your SIM registration now. Airtel Tigo. Life is simple.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
You're welcome back. Let's do some more stories. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has increased tariffs for electricity and natural gas by 18.36% across the board for all consumer groups. According to the Commission, the decision was taken after the quarterly tariff review for the second quarter of 2023. The PURC blamed the depreciation of the cedi, inflation, electricity generation mix, and the weighted average cost of natural gas as the factors that influenced the latest increment. PURC, in a statement, explained that the decision was taken to balance the prevention of extended power outages and their adverse implications on jobs and livelihoods while minimizing the impact of rate increases on consumers.
Now, government has yet to disburse funds for the payment of coupons belonging to pensioner bondholders after it agreed to do so. After a meeting between the Finance Ministry and the Pensioner Bondholders Forum last week Friday, the ministry agreed to pay approximately 17 outstanding coupons from Monday while negotiations continued on 3 outstanding principals. This was in response to the picketing at the Finance Ministry by the pensioners in protest of the non-payment of the coupons and principals. But Citi News checks revealed that the money is yet to hit the accounts of the pensioners 3 days after the assurances. The pensioners have, however, given government until Friday, May 19, to effect payment or risk a resumption of their protest.
Incumbent Member of Parliament for Sanarigu, Alhassan Bashir Alhassan Hussaini, has thrown his weight behind Ataisa, who defeated him in the NDC parliamentary race over the weekend. ABA Hussaini lost the parliamentary primaries with 333 votes, while his main contender, Ataisa, pulled 801 votes. Breaking his silence in a Facebook post, the defeated aspirant said he is grateful to his constituents for giving him the opportunity to serve them. He further urged all party members to support the party in its bid to win the next polls. Here are excerpts of his post on his Facebook wall.
I give thanks and praises to Almighty Allah for being my guide in this journey. By His divine grace, I have represented the good people of Sanerigu constituency for 3 consecutive terms as their Member of Parliament, and I'm eternally grateful to him. My sincere thanks and appreciation also go to my family for always standing by me through all of it. I pay reverence to the chiefs and elders of Sanerigu for their guidance, support, and cooperation. Kudos to my team of diligent, hard-working men and women who put their lives on the line for me. I shall never forget your toils for me. To my ardent supporters and the rank and file of the NDC in the constituency, thank you. I have represented the Bilchina people of Sanerigu in the best way I can, and I am proud of the modest successes we have chalked together. Let us close our ranks quickly and get back to work. We must all put our shoulders to the wheel and work towards victory 2024. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama remains our only hope to rescue Ghanaians from these excruciating hardships, and we cannot fail him. Congratulations to my son, Ata Issa, for taking the baton from me. I pray you run a good race. God bless the NDC. God bless Sanerigu constituency.
That was from a Facebook post by the defeated parliamentary aspirant for Sanerigu, ABA Hussaini, read by Citi News' Benjamin Nketia.
Now, the Accra Circuit Court 1 has handed down a verdict sentencing a Nigerian citizen to 8 years imprisonment with hard labor. Bright Daniels was found guilty of impersonating COP Mamiya Tiwado Danka on social media platforms and engaging in fraudulent activities targeting unsuspecting individuals. At the time of committing this crime, Daniels was already a convicted prisoner serving time at the Nsawam prisons. Despite denying the offense, he was subjected to a comprehensive trial, ultimately establishing his guilt. Meanwhile, his accomplice, Livinus Amandianezu Ugu, an ex-convict and Nigerian international, remains at large.
The High Court has deferred an injunction application by former Secretary of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bissu, seeking to stop the special prosecutor from prosecuting him. Charles Bissu caused a writ of summons and statement of claim to be issued against the OSP and 2 others in December 2022 after the OSP announced in its half-yearly report that it has completed investigations into corruption allegations against him by Tiger Eye PI and ANAS. He amended the writ in January 2023 and filed an injunction to restrain the OSP from further investigating and prosecuting him. The motion for discovery is not yet due for hearing, as Charles Bissu claims not to have been served with the affidavit of the OSP in opposition. The court today, following an opposition by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, decided not to hear the injunction application until after The plaintiff has moved his motion for discovery on June 12, 2023. Meanwhile, sources at the Office of the Special Prosecutor has denied claims of an investigation into alleged payment by John Dramani Mahama to delegates before, during, and or after the weekend's primary elections.
In some other news, the 2020 presidential candidate of the Ghana Freedom Party, Ekuya Donko, has been cited by the Auditor General for illegally occupying a slaughterhouse constructed by the Nsanwom Adwedwe Municipal Assembly. The 2020 Auditor General's report reveals that the slaughterhouse was constructed at the cost of 182,000 Ghana cedis in August 2016 and has been occupied as private residence by Ekuya Donko without any justification. Appearing before the Public Accounts Committee, the coordinating director of the Nsanwom Adwedwe Municipal Assembly, Jeremiah Ajekum Amuafo, says all efforts aimed at ejecting the occupants have proven futile.
The Assembly from that time has been having a battle in the court with Madame Ekuya Donko. We had favorable judgment to evict her just last month, April. But the supervising High Court judge is yet to sign the directive to the police so that eviction will be effected. And we are awaiting that.
But the signing of that one too, why should it delay?
Our understanding is that he is currently not available. Yes.
But is she personally living in the slaughterhouse?
Honorable Chair, yes. Some of the time you find her there, but other times she will not be around. But you go and put a padlock on it and she breaks it and then reoccupy. And she's been making a whole lot of cases for us, so we have decided not to touch her and allow the court process.
Is she using it as a residence?
Yes.
Hey, right.
But Chairman, we want to find out from them. So, as part of the orders which were made by the court, the court asked for rent to be paid by the illegal occupant.
Madam Chair, no, the court only directed that she be evicted.
So, you use the Assembly's resources to put up a slaughterhouse. One, you deny yourself the use of the facility, and the people don't benefit from the facility that has been put up. Somebody occupies the thing without your knowledge, and then they rent nothing. But what happened? How did she get access to the building?
Madam Chair, the project had been completed, and we needed to connect electricity to the facility. Though that wasn't part of the contract, so we needed to do that for the butchers to be able to go in. It was just around that time that Madame Ekuya Donko went to break the door, the padlocks, and went. When we tried to eject her, she quickly went to the court, and in fact, that is the story that has been running.
She went to court?
Yes.
And the court said what?
And indeed, not just we attempting to eject her, but making allegations that the chief executive and the presiding member have brought guns and all that. So there was a series of allegations that she made that we needed the court to handle. That is what has been.
Those were excerpts of proceedings at the Public Accounts Committee sitting in Ho in the Volta region.
Now, the National Disaster Management Organization has issued a warning to residents in mining areas, urging them to refrain from engaging in illegal mining. The caution comes after a pit caved in at Kolete, a mining community located in the Broome North district of the Eastern region. 7 individuals lost their lives. Neil Ni Amate Kanaku provides further details in this report.
The farming and mining community of Kolete, situated in the Broome North district of the Eastern region, was engulfed in grief upon receiving news of the untimely demise of several community members involved in Galamsey. The victims, numbering 7, were among a group of young men actively engaged in Galamsey at the Takoso site when heavy rainfall caused the pit to cave in. Rescue operations managed to retrieve 10 individuals from the rubble, but tragically, only 3 survived, leaving 7 dead. In response to this unfortunate incident, the Broome North District Security Council convened a meeting to discuss the matter. A team from the Eastern Regional NADMO office was dispatched to the scene to support the effort of the District NADMO office and assess the situation. Despite the government's commitment to combating Galamsey, This illegal activity continues unabated in most mining communities. Residents even resort to threatening journalists who attempt to report on the issue. Alfred Oredu-Ajiman, the head of operations at NADMO, reaffirmed NADMO's dedication to its objectives and cautioned residents to halt their involvement in Galamsey and avoid abandoned pits. He also mentioned that plans are underway to assist the family in identifying their loved ones by reporting to the mob.
The interaction we had with the unit committee member, it is very difficult to fight illegal Galamsey. Taking into consideration the monetary gains that they get from the activity, if you are even prepared to give them alternative livelihood support, they will not engage themselves in that livelihood activity. Because from the interaction, we realized the money that they get from the Galamsey, the gains is very, very overwhelming as compared to giving them alternative livelihood support. Activity is being undertaken by people who look so helpless. Even we learned yesterday when the media people got there, they chased them away. And sensing danger, they were afraid that maybe the Operation Vanguard team will come after them. They have deserted the place. There is no one at sight. We were fortunate that the unit committee member volunteered to disclose certain information to us. You can't even see a single person at sight. It is just the pit that has caved in that you see. So there's nobody there for you to even interact with. And the unit committee member is not a member of the illegal activity. They themselves are afraid to even talk to the people because from this interaction, they are engaged in all sorts of activities. They take in illicit drugs, hard drugs. So it is very difficult to even talk to them.
That report was filed by City News' Eastern Regional Correspondent Neil Niamate Kanako.
Now, about 800 people left homeless after a rainstorm hit parts of the Nanumba North municipality have still not received any help from the state. This is according to the municipal chief executive for the area, Abdullah Yakub. He says records have been taken and sent to the appropriate authorities, but his outfit is yet to receive any help. Speaking to City News, the MCE said the affected victims will need building materials and relief items to help rebuild their homes.
Finish our assessment, and over 800 people have been affected, not only in Bimbla Township, Bimbla and then its surrounding villages. I know Bimbla Tangas, some other few villages. So the assessment have been done. The data has been given to the national headquarters of NADMO, and then the honorable member of parliament have also gotten the data. So we are working to see what we can do to help the people. But the most important thing is building materials for those who had their buildings completely demolished or completely collapsed by the rainstorm. And some of the government institutions that we mentioned earlier, the Electoral Commission, some of the public schools, and then fire service, and then immigration service. These are all things that we are looking at, and at the appropriate time, when we receive any relief item, you will be notified.
So does that mean that for now nothing has been?
We have not yet had any relief from central government.
Okay. Thank you so much.
That was the municipal chief executive for Nanumba North, Abdullah Yakub.
This is still the Citi Prime News, live on 97.3 City FM. My name is Safo, and I'm here with Charles Owusu Kumi. Still to come, 4 persons still on admission at the Nkwanta South Municipal Hospital following an alleged food poisoning in Ago in the Oti region. We'll bring you the details shortly. Do stay.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
City TV is live on DSTV, GoTV, and HD+. On DSTV, find us on channel 363. On GoTV, we're on channel 117, and on HD+, get us on channel 108. On a digital TV, run a new search, but take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV. City TV can be accessed on any free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and HD+ boxes. City TV, it's your world. The news cycle can sometimes be rather daunting. With an abundance of media houses publishing daily, where does one even begin? What the papers are saying is a one-stop shopping experience to knowing and understanding the most important news items that made the headlines.
Role in all that has gone on. So we are grateful.
Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
You're welcome back. 4 persons are still on admission at the Nkwanta South Municipal Hospital following an alleged food poisoning in a go in the Oti region. A total of 27 people were admitted at the hospital over an alleged poisoned food they ate at a funeral. 23 of them have so far been discharged, while the conditions of the rest of the 4 are being monitored by health personnel at the Nkwanta South Municipal Hospital. Speaking to City News, the Nkwanta South Municipal Health Director, Evans Atavo, says the situation is under control.
Let's go to the Upper East region. The Regional Directorate of the Veterinary Service is cautioning pet owners in the region to ensure timely vaccination of dogs against rabies to reduce the alarming human rabies-related deaths in that region. According to the Directorate, rabies killed 22 persons out of over 13,000 dog bites recorded between 2018 and 2022. Speaking to City News, Regional Data Officer at the Veterinary Service, Robert Bayo, who bemoaned the situation, called for a deliberate policy to ensure all pet owners vaccinate their pets against rabies to avoid such needless deaths.
What pushed us is the sense that people are not reporting, even though we have the cases all over the region. People are being bitten by dogs. People are dying from rabies, but they tend to shelve them for one reason or the other. And so we wanted to come out to do this education and publication so that they'll get to know that the rabies virus is there, it is real. And once you get it and you begin to manifest the signs, there is nothing that can be done to it. You will die. So when they see how dangerous it is, when they see or witness a dog bite, even if it is not they themselves being bitten, they will report that I've seen somebody, I've seen that person being bitten or being exposed to rabies. That is why we engaged in this. Yes. The thing is that rabies is completely preventable. And so if even one person dies of rabies, it is worrying. Something that could completely be avoided. And somebody dying out of it is very worrying. Currently, the statistics that we gave, that is what is being reported. As I said during the training, most of the cases, sometimes we attribute it to spiritual causes, and so they don't actually report it at the health facilities, so we don't have the records. But in actual fact, people are dying. But with the records that is there, we have about 22 people dying between 2018 and 2022, which is very worrying. Yes, something that could completely be avoided.
That was the Upper East Regional Data Officer at the Veterinary Service, Robert Bayu.
In the Eastern Region, the Eastern Regional Police Command is investigating circumstances that led to a brutal attack on students and teachers of the New Jobbing Senior High School in Koforidua by students at the Koforidua Senior High Technical School. Reports indicate that students of Koforidua Sectech on Sunday went to the New Jobbing Senior High School to attack their colleagues and some members of staff. They are reported to have destroyed several properties belonging to New Jobbing Senior High School. 4 students of New Jobbing Senior High School and the school chaplain who were severely injured in in the process. The headmaster of New Jabeng Senior High School, Mark Ofori Frimpong, who has been speaking to City News, says 4 students have been arrested.
Just around 9 after prep, then they resurfaced in their numbers. More than 100 students from Kofodia Secondary Technical. Then they started vandalizing, throwing stones, helter-skelter, everywhere. Then I knew from the way that they were moving, the target was the school bus. So they started throwing stones and my students were trying to prevent them. So in course of the struggle, some of my students got injured and I'm told 2 of them also got injured. My students were sent to the hospital, they were treated and discharged and they came back. So the police and enforcement came back for the second time. So on that very Sunday, I slept even around 1:30 because the police were around till calm was maintained and I assured my students of their safety and they went back to their dormitories. The next day they wanted to come back, but with the presence of the police patrol unit, they couldn't enter and then they went back. So that is exactly what happened. I'm told 4 of them are arrested. And when I reported the case to my regional director, he said, you should rather call the parents to come and then secure bail for their awards. So I know by now it's more than 24 hours, so they've been granted bail.
He, however, indicated that the headmaster of the Kofodia Tech has asked for the cost of all damaged items.
They've been calling and I'm telling them their children are in safe hands. We've employed police every evening. They will be here till 10:30 before they get back home to their duty. So security has been restored or calm has been restored. And I think things are in order. And we are also talking with management of Kofodia Secondary Technical so that we see how best we'll be able to solve the problems once and for all. Yeah, I've been told the headmaster said I should put some value on the items damaged. But sorry to say, I'm not a consultant. For instance, the vehicle, I can't just, because they also destroyed 2 of our Rambo 800 polytanks that used to serve the boys and some of the masters. They've destroyed them completely, as well as the sick bay was also under siege.
Mark Ofori Frimpong is the headmaster of the New Jabeng Senior High School in the Eastern Region.
Let's go to the northern region. Transport operators at Bimbilla have refused to reduce fares by 10% as directed by the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. According to the local GPRTU secretary in Bimbilla, Abdullahi Salifu, the order has not been formally communicated to them, hence their refusal to comply.
Always when charges are going to increase, it comes from Accra, the national level. And why we are going to reduce it comes from Accra.
Yeah, it is Accra, the national level, that has directed that you should reduce it by 10%.
But they haven't given us any letter or any call.
Okay.
So we are still on the old price.
So usually when any directives is coming, it usually comes in a form of a letter or a call. But this one you have not received.
We haven't seen anything like that.
Okay. So
we are still waiting. We also heard that it's going to be reduced, but we haven't heard anything up from the headquarters. So we are still waiting.
Now, some passengers have, however, appealed to the transport operators to enforce the reduction in fares.
Let's come here in Accra. We understand that transport operators are also refusing to reduce the fares by the 10%. Let's go over the phone lines and speak to my colleague Kweku Adriama answer on that. Kweku, which stations have you visited and what are the reasons for not reducing the fares?
Thank you, Eno. So far I've visited 2 major stations in the Greater Accra region. That is La Paz station, which, I mean, if you want to get a vehicle to all parts of the Greater Accra region, you would get there. Also, I'm currently at the Tema station, and the situation is similar. The drivers are all singing the same song. They say that they would not reduce the prices. These are individual drivers who are not speaking on authority, whether they are with the GPRTU or any transport union. But they are saying that because the prices of spare parts and other things that they use for their daily work has not been reduced, they don't think it is best, or it will be in their best interest to reduce the prices of transport fares. You know that ideally they're supposed to effect the change today by 10%, as was announced by the road transport operators, but that is not happening so far. At La Paz station, for instance, there were some scuffles that were happening there, and that's because the passengers believe that the reduction should be today, but the drivers, on the other hand, some of them are saying they would effect the change days going on, subsequent days. Others too are saying that they would not reduce it at all, and that is what they have been chanting here. So currently at the Tema station, a lot of drivers that I've spoken to are saying that they don't think that is the right thing to do. They rather want government to help them and also reduce the price of other things. I don't know if you can hear some of them speaking here. They tell me that they would not reduce. Let me just speak to one driver here. I'll say months, so I don't know how better so.
Yes, let's say it. But to buy it.
But say almost automatic petrol.
But now, first in petrol here, 57. This is a petrol here, 55. Because I'm a petrol car use. Yeah, you can't issue an a senior maybe. And I am a Ukaboso car, and yet it's in your man. But Omunya Tisa, for super, no more the young person. Because cars is a car tie. This person I turned trainer, this is 700. Any other idea? Because Mata car is your Yama Bebre, one. Yahoo come home. It's funny the Amogas they have to because I need to put your G40 positive. AC number one G42. Until this one, ever high.
Into baby, I would just say in months or so.
May I come your father? So
okay. So I just spoke to one driver. What he's saying is that he is not going to reduce the price of his fares, and that is because he says other inputs that they use for their daily work are still up high with regard to the pricing. And so they think that if the reduction is going to be done across the board, then that will be in their best interest. If not, then they are not going to reduce the prices. He is a driver who moves from Accra to Koforidua. He says that they charge 42 cedis and 44 cedis for their respective cars. And he doesn't think that even the reduction in the fuel price is even, something enough to write home about. And so they are rather imploring government to help so that the price of all other commodities that they use for their daily work would be reduced downwards.
Thank you very much for that update. You heard me speak to my colleague Kweku Ejama Ansan, who is going round Accra on the reduction of transport fares. Charles?
Let's stay with the transport fares. There's been mixed reactions by passengers in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, to the 10% reduction in the fares. While some passengers have welcomed the reduction, some drivers disagree, particularly as the cost of spare parts and other items keep going up. Meanwhile, some station masters who have been speaking to Citi News have called for the arrest of drivers who do not strictly comply with the 10% reduction in transport fares.
Now, contrary to reports in both traditional and social media that some senior high schools in the New Jobbing North and South municipalities of the Eastern region are in dire need of food items for students, the situation is different and has been dispelled by some senior high school heads in Koforidua. Some parents allege that students in Koforidua and other neighboring municipalities were struggling to get food. Citi News' checks at the New Jobbing Senior High School, which houses a buffer stock warehouse for the New Jobbing zone, showed many bags of rice, sugar, oil, boxes of mackerel and tin tomato paste at the warehouse. The zonal chairman of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools and headmaster of Otibuatin Senior High School, John Hulkson Arthur, dispelled the claims by the parents in an interview with Citi News.
The situation in your school? As I speak, I have food. Never indicated that I don't have food. And being the zonal chair, I know we have food. In grad school here, where we stand, is our base where we come for the food. And the buffer, there is no buffer stock. This time, 2 teams are working for us. So even if buffer stock is not supplying, the other sector is also doing it. So this time round, I must say we are happy that we have enough to feed our children.
So where are these reports coming from that the schools in New Jabin South do not have food to eat?
Oh, I can't tell, but people can easily fabricate.
You heard the zonal chairman of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools and headmaster of Utsi Boating Senior High School, John Hulkson Arthur. The headmaster of the New Jabin Senior High School, Mark Ofori Frimpong, who also spoke to City News, expressed shock about the news.
I'm scared where this kind of information is coming from, because as for New Jabin, there's no single day that my students have gone hungry or even eating porridge even in the evening. We have stocks of rice and other things. We may not have all the food items, but things that should sustain the students, what they are supposed to eat, we give them what we have, not what the menu says.
So do you have enough to feed the students?
Oh, my friend, I took you round. You have seen stocks of food items around. So you can speak to the issue yourself.
You heard the headmaster of the New Jabin Senior High School, Mark Ofori Frimpong. And that's it for the Citi Prime News, which has been live from our studio here in Adabraka in Accra. I am Safo, and I was here with
Charles Owusu Kumi.
Up next is the midday edition of the City Business News with Neteli Neti. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your day.
City 97.3. More